Let's go ahead and install this rear fender on this little bobber here. This is really simple, easy to do on this bike. Okay, first of all, what you want to do is, and I covered this earlier, is you want to install this bracket on the front. Thing goes in there like that. We have that drill in the kit, so you can go ahead and drill these holes. Drill one hole, put the screw in, and drill the other, and then that installs like that. So it basically sandwiches these two brackets on both sides of the fender like that. Okay, and then on the rear, you've got your bracket there. These are the screws with the rubber washers. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and put the silicone sealant in there. Just run silicone sealant under this bracket, and then bolt that in place. And then it's best to let that sit for at least 4 or 5 hours or so you can put your struts on. The reason for that is this: when you take your struts on and off your bike, that strap will stay on the fender, so it'll stay on there. You won't have to dink with that. So go ahead and do that, and then let's install this fender. Grab this weird looking bracket. This is the front fender support that goes on the front side of the swing arm. Grab that bracket, and then this is the way it mounts on the motorcycle. Now if you'll notice, there's holes right here. 3 sets of holes. That's to set the distance on the fender according to the tire size and the chain wear that you have on your motorcycle. So I'll go ahead and show you how this mounts in there. Okay, I've put this piece of paper here so you can see this bracket. It's kind of dark down in there. If you'll notice down in the bottom of the swing, in this flat area of the swing arm down in here, there's some rubber grommets. Go ahead and pop those grommets out on the top and the bottom, and that's where the 2 bolts go to hold this bracket on. Now, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and run the bolt up from the bottom up, put the nylock knot on top. Now, when you're tightening those, just snug them up just to where that you feel drag on the bolt. You don't have to snug them, tighten the crap out of them. Just where they feel like there's no drag on them, because that's all you need to hold this on there. You don't want to crush this tubing in here on your swing arm. Okay, and then according to the distance of the tire away from the bracket and your chain wear and the size of the tire is depending on how you'll set this bracket. What I've done is I've set this so this clearance here is about 1.25 inches or so. You want to have enough clearance there for the fender, the bolt on the underside of the fender, not to hit your tire. But you don't want to too far, then the fender won't match the contour of the tire when you mount it. So I would say about 1.1 inches, 1.25 inches there is plenty. Maybe go down as close as 1 inch, but not any closer than that. So go ahead and set that in there. Go ahead and snug those up, just like I say, just where there's a drag on the bolts, and then we'll proceed. Okay, you can put this nut on this fender and screw it down quite a ways, but leave enough gap for this so it'll fit on that black bracket there. And then what you do is just slide that into that slot, and then go ahead and center the fender over the tire, and then go ahead and snug that up. Now you've got the nut on this side and the washer on this side. So you want the washer on the nut side. And then what you want to do is you want to go ahead and kind of just look from the back of the bike and set your gap here, down in here, the same on both sides, between the fender and the tire. Eyeball that and get that close, and then go ahead and snug that nut up there a little bit. And then we'll go ahead and put the rear struts on. Go ahead and remove the bolt out of the bottom of the shock here, and then we're going to install those struts on the fender just like that. So the rubber washers on the top. Now just go ahead and just snug those up just a little bit. Go ahead and insert the strut under the fender and just screw those in just a little bit tight right now. We're going to go ahead and hook this up now. This is the longer bolt that's in your kit at the bottom of your strut there. Go ahead and we're going to use this longer bolt on the bottom, and then make sure the washer, the lock washers on this side. So you got the bolt, the lock washer, and then the washer. And then let's go ahead and put a lot of Loctite on the screw threads, because we want to make sure that this doesn't come off. So go ahead and do that, and we'll screw that into the shock there. Then we'll continue on. Okay, let's next go ahead and snug all the nuts and bolts up on this rear fender. And what we want is we want this fender to be centered on the tire, not sideways. And then make sure you got enough clearance on the underneath so that the screws are not rubbing on the tire. And then one thing you want to is to make sure that the clearance is about the same on the side here. In other words, you don't want a big gap here and a small gap there. I mean, a little bit's okay, but you want to make sure it's kind of even through there. And to get this centered, sometimes you can move the front bolt back and forth a little bit. That'll kind of change the back side here. And then also you can raise or lower one strut or the other, and that'll kind of change the way it fits on the tire too. And then extreme cases you may have to bend them just a little bit, just tweak them a little bit if they're a little bit off. But we try to bend these as close as we can so that that fender fits really nice on the tire. And there's nothing worse than looking back and seeing the fender offset on there. So get that centered as best you can, and then go ahead and snug everything up. And what we want to do lastly, before we call it quits on this fender, we want to make sure we take these back out and put some Loctite on them. Again, I'm going to emphasize this, but let's put some Loctite on these screws, because you don't want these screws coming out when you're zipping down the road there. That's kind of scary. So go ahead and do that, and then let's make sure, go back and double check all your nuts and bolts on this, because you want everything nice and snug. Don't break the bolts, but get them nice and snug. That fender looks really nice on there.